One thing I want to say on a sad note is that Mayor Ed Koch passed away this morning, and 88 years old. What a powerhouse, what a legacy. When I was listening to the radio this week, we've got the 100th anniversary of Grand Central Station, and most of us in the room remember what was going on in the 70s with Grand Central, really a dilapidated building, and the question about the continuity of landmark preservation. And Ed Koch was a congressman at the time. And someone was sitting next to former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy at a dinner and happened to get up and walk away. And Congressman at the time Koch sat down next to her. And thus history was made because Jackie Kennedy spoke to Ed Koch, and he then became the mayor of New York. And we have them and others to thank for this magnificent jewel that we have today. But what we don't know is that it came this close to the wrecking ball. And I consider, when I think about what to say today and how to open up today, in many respects we often find ourselves on the precipice where we're about to have something really unpleasant happen. Of course, we've been through some pretty difficult times recently with this storm Sandy. In fact, I consider that we're in the middle of a revolution right now when it comes to energy consumption. And I don't think that's too dramatic a term. We have preferences for fossil fuel. It's easy, and we have a need to be able to shift away from that. We have a need to be able to move over more toward renewable energy. But in the meantime, the reason we're here today is to talk about one other piece of the pie. And I asked them for a piece of the pie today because I want you to think about this visually, that our energy really is a pie. Sometimes I guess they were using that for our food consumption. That didn't work, so now they've got a pyramid. I don't even know what they've got now. But when you see the charts on energy, fossil fuel really is the largest wedge. That's when you've had like 3 pieces of pie. And then we move over to renewable, and we've got some renewable experts here today who can speak a little bit about that. And because of financing at the federal level and maybe lobbying at the federal level, we've got a lot of influence from the oil and gas industry. We've got a lot of things in process right now. And for that reason, the renewable piece of the pie is a little bit smaller than we'd like it to be. So in the meantime, what I'm hoping we will do is expand the part of the pie that relates to our consumption. And by that I mean we would like to consume less, save more, and for the purposes of our own community, contribute. And in this case this year, we've got a renovation and an upgrade of the Hommocks Ice Rink. For those of you who don't know, it is a jewel in our community. It is a large source of revenue for the community. People move to Mamaroneck because of the, and Larchmont because of the ice skating rink. And when you consider that there are only a few venues in Westchester County that have ice skating rinks, that singles us out. And then when you add the Long Island Sound, which frankly is our most valuable outdoor asset, I mean really beyond compare, and you add to that our 2 unique and diverse downtowns, then really we are one of a kind. And what I'm hoping out of this today, this presentation, and moving forward, is that we can think about our real estate, our homes, as a center of value where we can upgrade the energy use in our homes, make them more comfortable, make them more energy efficient, and boost the value of your home at the same time that you keep money in your pocket. So our 2 speakers today are perfect for that. Just want to tell you just a couple of things that are going to be coming up this spring. On the weekend before Earth Day, on Sunday, April 21st at Memorial Park, we are going to have a community yard sale, silent auction, and I guess I want to call it Energy Fair. And it's coming, it's evolving into something that's going to be a lot of fun. For $25, you can rent a space in the parking lot that's near the train station across the street from the park. And for $25, you can then sell your whatever it is that you want. I don't think we want queen-size beds in there, but I think sort of manageable size things. And we're also asking for donations of unused gifts that we can put toward a silent auction. I'm also very pleased to say that one of our treasures on the silent auction is spending a day with Senator George Latimer. Okay, so you can bid for that also. That's very true. That's right. So you can start saving now, Elaine. Right. The other thing is now we're going to have the Soundettes singing. Linda Alper's here, going to be serenading us, which is going to be really wonderful. And we'll also have presentations by, I think that Sheldrake will be there composting. We're going to learn about energy options. I'm hoping that my friend Tim Woodcock from Solar City will be there. We'll be able to learn about conservation, composting, etc. And then on Friday, May 17th, again, this is a work in progress, we're going to have a trash-and show at Mamaroneck High School. Well, what's a trash-and show? It's a fashion show of outfits made out of recycled material. I've been working with high school students, and it's going to be a blast. I think we're also going to have some of our elected officials involved and some other great surprises. And we're going to be charging a modest fee, but all of the money that we raise will go toward the upgrade of the energy system at the Hommocks Ice Rink and also the renovation. So this really is a community effort, and my hope is that we can really pull together. After our presenters, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I've been conserving over the last, it's been about 6 weeks, and give you some of the tips. And I've saved a little bit of money, and then we'll go further. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who lives in Larchmont. Pleased to introduce Larchmont's own Richard Cherry, who will speak to us today about how homeowners can save money and enhance home value by saving energy. Richard Cherry founded Community Environmental Center in 1994 and is its president and CEO. After graduation from Cornell University and the University of Pennsylvania Law School, and after initially pursuing a legal career in private practice, in 1970, Rick went to work at the New York Urban Coalition, where he became executive vice president in charge of housing and community development, and the president of Urban Coalition Housing Group, responsible for the rehabilitation and repair of low-income residential buildings. By establishing CEC, Mr. Cherry brought New York City its first not-for-profit organization to make environmental issues a central concern of housing and community development. And today, CEC is a leader in the energy efficiency field. CEC is the largest supplier of weatherization services under New York State's Weatherization Assistance Program, an approved provider of the Energy Efficiency Program of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, which some of us know as NYSERDA, and a pioneer in the use of cellulose, insulation, and solar hot water systems in New York City buildings. CEC has 2 affiliates, Solar One, which is located in Manhattan, which educates young people about environment and organizes green jobs training, and Build It Green New York City, which is located both in Queens and Brooklyn, which deconstructs interiors and salvages and reuses construction materials and furnishings to keep them out of the landfill. In recognition of Mr. Cherry's leadership of CEC and his dedication to improving the environment and quality of life of New York citizens, Civic Ventures in 2007 awarded him the prestigious Purpose Prize for Leadership in Social Innovation. Please welcome Rick Cherry.
Do I need to hold this, or can we? Yeah, I need to hold it.
But that doesn't broadcast your voice louder, so make sure you project.
Thank you.
That's only for the TV.
I was going to go look to see who this person was that she just introduced. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. The work that Elizabeth and the League want to do is exciting to me. It's been what I've been about for 19 years, and it would be great to really see this town, which I live in and care about, really be a leader in this whole area. So I'm very pleased to be able to share a little bit with you, excuse me, and see if I can be helpful and answer any questions. Community Environmental Center 19 years ago I founded it. For 19 years I've been trying to find a better name. Someone recently said to me, government official who met me for the first time said, Community Environmental Center, that's a mouthful, but I still don't know what you do. What we do, we're in the energy efficiency business, and energy efficiency, the broad spectrum is everything from energy conservation in the home to renewable energy. But our mainstay has been energy efficiency in homes and apartment buildings. Over the 19 years, we've probably done energy efficiency in over 2,000 homes and about 1,000 apartment buildings. So my folks really know this business. We care about this business. We're a not-for-profit. That doesn't mean we're against making a little dollar here and there, but what it means is that the people who work for me are really doing this because we care a great deal about the earth. Some time ago, actually I must say, Al Gore really changed my thinking about what we were doing. We saw our work as helping people save money, particularly low-income people. Most of our work is government work in lower-income homes. And it wasn't until we all got awakened to what is happening with the climate crisis that I realized that every home that we do energy efficiency work reduces the carbon footprint of that home, reduces the amount of greenhouse gases coming from that home by over a ton. And our numbers show us that given the homes we've done, we've reduced over 1 million tons of greenhouse gases. So it's the reason that motivates us more than anything now. We are motivated as a mission to try to reduce and mitigate the climate crisis that comes particularly from buildings, all sorts of buildings. But you do save dollars, and I think our numbers show somewhere between $600,000 a year after year, gets saved if you do the full amount of work in your house on energy efficiency. And again, people love to give me statistics. Our numbers show we've saved people over $350 million in money that they can stop sending to the fuel company and start spending locally. So it's really a big boost to the local economy. People don't think of it that way, but most of our energy dollars don't stay local. And when we have a little more money in our pocket, we spend it locally. When I had my crew, I paid them for it, come and do the house. I live in here in Larchmont. The first thing we felt was like someone put a blanket over the house. And the main thing I think, other than the good feeling of doing the right thing that came from it, is our house is a lot more comfortable. You know, it's one of those things, government doesn't let you or want you to go around saying that they're helping you do something that's more comfortable. But one of the real benefits from doing energy efficiency is you have less drafts, and your house is quieter. And you know, one of the things also is that when airflow stops going through your walls, your house is also safer. Fire spreads a lot less. We have had calls from places we've done energy efficiency work in who have said, you saved our house. So a little fire started in a room and it never spread. The fire people got there in time to put it out. And so it's the comfort, it's the safety. We do some air quality tests when we do our work, so you'll know you're not breathing carbon monoxide after we leave. That's another benefit. And then property value. Oh, we're all mercenary, and we care about property value. A study was done, there's been several surveys, but a study was done by McGraw-Hill. 70% of the people asked said they prefer to buy a green home. That has really changed tremendously, and now that we're back, you know, 6 months ago, when I try to talk to federal legislators, and even at a state level, you couldn't use the word climate crisis. Nobody wanted to talk about it, but now it's okay again, and thank goodness. So I think we're going to see even a lot more recognition of the need to have green, to do energy efficiency work, which is going to mean that if your house is on the market and it's a greenhouse and it's had energy efficiency, it'll have more value. And I think many people know you sell to people who are buying up, young people who are buying up. And I know when I bought my first house, I wanted to know what the utility bills were. And it's going to make a difference if your utility bills are lower than the house next door. So property values is another. And then let's not forget, I think in this town, we care a little bit about what happens with nuclear energy and fracking. And if we can reduce the amount of energy we're using as a community, as a nation, we will need less nuclear fuel, and we may even be able to slow down the fracking that goes on. Someone, and this is, I don't remember it exactly because it's several years since someone showed me this. They did an analysis that if everyone in the metropolitan area, New York City and here, changed one light bulb to a CFL, you could close the nuclear plant. It's a little thing, but we can make big strides by doing a lot of little things together. So what do we do when we come to your house? Well, the first thing I learned early on is we have to warn people because we look like we come from outer space. We come with a Tyvek suit on, in white uniforms, and with all this frightening equipment. I've actually had, when we first started, I'll always remember this, the woman of the house made the arrangements, my folks showed up, and I had this screaming man on the phone saying, "They're not coming to my house, I won't let those folks in." So we come and do an energy audit to figure out what's the best thing to do in your home. And they use the blower door technique, which means that we close your house up, we put this big fan in your door, we in effect regulate the pressure in your house, we go around with things like manometers that find where the leaks are. We have an infrared camera that could tell differences in temperature and therefore also what's going on. We test your boiler to see its efficiency, a whole bunch of stuff we know how to do about that. Tell you what you can do to improve the efficiency of your boiler. And we do indoor air quality tests. And at the end of it, we have an audit with cost estimates about what the work would cost you and what should be done. And we'll sit down and go over that audit with you and discuss what's a good work plan, what's affordable to you, what you feel that you want to do. Obviously, we encourage you to do everything. But we will work with you on, it could be a 1-year, 2-year program that you won't want to do everything at once. Then the folks come out and do the work. Usually a work scope is somewhere between $4,000, $8,000 a home. We have larger homes, more work scope. We can do window, we do window work. Everyone seems to think about windows first. Often, if your windows are really poor, they should be first, but most of what we think are air leaks that are coming from windows are coming actually from the walls around the windows. And it's not the top priority, but for sometimes it's the owner's priority. We do change out windows, and it often is a good thing to do. So the main work we do usually in a house is insulation. Insulation in your outer walls, insulation in your attic space, and work in your basement perimeters. What we want to do is stop the airflow from circulating behind your walls. That's what most of the time you don't know is going on. And we use a cellulose insulation. I go on much too long about cellulose, but to me it's one of the most favorite things that are out there. It's recycled newspaper with boric acid. It's totally a green substance. It is better insulation than just about anything else you could find out there. We have had this tested against every kind of insulation that's out there. The value is that we blow this in your walls and it totally seals your walls and there's no airflow. The boric acid, as an added benefit, is what we use for dealing with vermin, and so all those little critters don't like to go in your walls, and it stops the spread of fire. So we do this demonstration where we will hold a bunch of this newspaper in a hand with boric acid and take a torch to it, and it smolders. It does not burn. So it's a great fire retardant, and it's green, and it does a fabulous job. So that's what we use, and we blow that in, and we come with all this frightening equipment to do that. And as I said, we can do the other work I talked about, which were either windows, heating system adjustments. If you want a boiler change out, we don't do that, but we have contractors we work with. And let me say, I just met, I believe, Ann is your name? Jean, sorry. There are others that do this. And I'm here to encourage you to do it, whether you do it with us or not. I obviously think we do a better job than everybody, but and as Elizabeth said, we are a provider of one of the other things we will talk to you about, but let me just stop for a minute and say, there are things you can do yourself, and maybe you're going to talk about that a little bit. You obviously can change your light bulbs yourself if you haven't done that. You might think about doing door sweeps, and we can show you where they are and can use them and what ones to perhaps buy. You might want to go to the extent of doing pipe wrap. One of the big heat losses are right in your basement, your hot water pipes, your heating pipes. If they're not insulated, the heat's being left in the basement before it gets up to your house. That's not a difficult thing to do, although around the elbows and stuff it's a little tricky, and we needed some training to be able to do that. So we're a qualified NYSERDA contractor, and what that means is that NYSERDA for your homes, for the lower income homes, will provide a substantial grant, but it'll be a 10% of your cost of doing the work will be a grant to you from NYSERDA. But the most important thing, I think, is that if you want to, you can borrow from NYSERDA a low interest loan, which at this point I think is in the 3.5% range. So you know, it's fairly cheap money, and it can be, the newest thing in the state here is what's called on bill, which allows the repayment of that loan as you pay your Con Ed bill. So that loan can then become basically part of your monthly payments, and can be such that you're really paying back from your savings, and you haven't therefore seen such an increase in your Con Ed bill, which has really encouraged more lenders to be willing to make loans because of this, and it's kind of you know, makes it a lot easier way to do business. We, as I said, are very, very excited to work with the league, and if in fact we can work something out, and the league works with us on this, we will, as I've told her, work with putting some contribution into the fund that you're trying to raise as we do work in the community. Our audit charge is $450, but you get that back if you go forward and do work with us. We will apply it towards the cost of the work. So what can I say? I mean, why not? Why not do this? I mean, you know, you got cheap money available to you. you're going to have a more comfortable house. It'll have greater property value. And if we all work together, we can save this beautiful coastline, and we can stop fracking and nuclear energy needs, and we can leave a planet for our children. So thank you so much.
One of the points that Rick just made, which I think is worth sort of underscoring in a slightly different way, we often talk about cumulative impacts, sometimes on the negative side, but also here we have cumulative impacts on the positive side. We have, the no idling that's passed. We now, led by the village of Mamaroneck, and Sarah Evans is here and has been instrumental among other people in the village. We're going to now have a plastic bag ban. And in the village of Larchmont, Marlene Colbert is here, and in the town, we're working on a plastic bag ban. Abby Katz, hi Abby. When we don't consume as much, the quality of our air is better. I mean, that can happen really almost immediately. If you turn off your car, you're not breathing in the fumes. And so that the impacts of what we're doing are not only about necessarily raising money for an upgrade of an ice rink that will help generate revenue, which is a wonderful thing. It will help us and our children breathe better air. And I think that's really what we're looking for: cleaner water, cleaner air. The financing piece, I also just want to comment on. This is, whoever came up with this idea was brilliant, because you're not really going out of pocket. If you think about it, what you're doing is you're repaying a loan based on what you're saving off of your bill. And at the end of the day, your energy bills are lower. So this is really almost a no-lose situation. It's a matter of really just taking the next step. And I've done a little bit of reading about what gets in the way of people making change. And some of it is thinking, well, that these strange people come to your house in these odd suits, and why would you want them to come in? So one of the things that I'm thinking about in the fall is inviting people to the homes of people locally that have actually already had upgrades, where people might be able to have an open house, and we wouldn't inundate them, but we can see what was done, and really get a first-hand testimonial from people about what the experience was like. And maybe even between now and then I will reach out, and we're trying to work on a Facebook page, but again, I'm a little bit technically challenged and I did it a little bit backwards, but you can go to our website. For example, you can download that form for the yard sale, and if there are people you know who might be willing to have an open house, communicate with us, because this is a year-long process, and I think the more that we can exchange ideas and be open to one another, really the more successful we're going to be.
Anyone who has young children at home, we also produce the comic book about what you can do in saving energy for kids and for parents to read to their kids.
And you can color it in too. It's okay. Yes.
Okay, another minute?
Please.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Besides the energy efficiency work, we have, as I think it was mentioned, something called Build It Green. Build It Green we have 2 warehouses, one in Queens, one in Brooklyn. You can make donations to it and get a tax deduction for making that donation of building materials that are reusable. And what does that mean? We have everything from kitchen cabinets to toilets to lighting to lumber. If you have a significant contribution you want to make, we'll send a crew out and we will do deconstruction, which means we'll take it apart in a way so that it can be resold and reused. It's again a way of stopping what goes to the landfill. It's amazing the amount of reusable stuff that we throw out and don't think about it. And we have found that this is a very, very useful, growing opportunity to reduce climate crisis also. So it's builditgreen.NYC, BIGNYC.org. And if you go to our website, you can link to that website. And I thank you very much, because I really want to encourage this community particularly, who, when you do a renovation, don't let your contractor just do the demolition because it's going to destroy it. Call us up, we'll come, and we'll make sure that it's properly reused.
Rick just mentioned also, the Owens Park Apartments, that your role there and some of the efficiency efforts that you've done there.
Sure. I also chair that luxury apartment building down the block here called Homix Houses, which we're very proud of, and thanks to the town of Mamaroneck are pleased to have here instead of that motel that used to be there. And when I became chair, we went in and found that, in fact, there was very little insulation and pipes were freezing. So we have done a major insulation job, and there we're saving the energy for the residents because they use their own heating system. But I felt very strongly that unlike most landlords, even though it wasn't going to put pockets in the money in the landlord's pocket, it was important for the people who live there. But we're hoping also to work together to do some additional housing.
Great, thank you. Mark Carroll wanted to just, we're going to have questions after Kyle speaks, but Mark Carroll, who's on the Sustainability Collaborative with me and others here, with Nancy, wanted to say a word.
Great. Thank you. I just want to add a comment in addition to what Mr. Cherry said. I also do energy auditing, but we're not competitors because I work in the commercial zone, in commercial area, office buildings. Can you hear? Can't hear? Okay. I also do energy audits, but more on the commercial end, so we're not competitors. I want to add one comment to what he said about NYSERDA, the funding from NYSERDA, and everyone thinks this is sort of from outer space, this free money and all that. What I want to point out to people, and people often forget, this is our money that goes into this. If everybody takes a look at their Con Edison bills, you'll see somewhere deep in the Con Edison bill that says SBC charge. You pay a couple of cents per kilowatt hour or per therm for gas, goes into this fund, which is now available for NYSERDA. So what I tell people is this isn't free money, this is your money that you're getting back, that you've been paying out all this time that you're getting back. So definitely take advantage of these audits and from and the subsidies from NYSERDA. One thing I wanted to add, one other thing that people can do very easily to save energy, it's actually the number one thing you can do from an economic point of view. The return on investment is the fastest for this strategy than any other strategy, and that is electronics. The electronics you have around your house. There's a program called Energy Star, and I believe it's energystar.com or .org, I forget what it is, but if you Google Energy Star, it'll come right up. It's an EPA program, actually it's an EPA and Department of Energy program that compares the electronics of different kinds of, different brands of different things you have around the house, refrigerators, dishwashers, laptop computers, printers, faxes, etc. You should go out and buy Energy Star labeled products. It's going to be 20 to 30% less electricity being used, but it will have the same function. You may have to pay $50 more maybe for it, but you're going to get that money back very, very quickly, generally in half a year on your electricity savings. So that's the number one thing we could all do very easily.
Thank you very much, Mark. When people have ideas, please share them with us because I've been in this for trying to save things, and there's some things that I haven't done yet. But you'll see after we hear from Kyle that you'd be surprised by a few different changes how much money you can really save on a monthly basis. Well, I met Kyle, I think it's been a little over a year. It's sort of hard to know, but we met through my work on hydraulic fracturing, and Kyle is a remarkable person doing remarkable work, and he traveled a distance to get here today, so I'm very grateful to have him with us. Kyle currently serves as the director of Grace's Water and Energy Program, and he's going to talk today about what I would call cutting-edge work on the intersection among energy, food, and water systems, and about how each of us can benefit from that work at Grace. I encourage you to visit, is it gracelinks.org? Is that right? Gracelinks.org, where there is just a wealth of information that help us as the consumers, us as citizens, to really navigate through the challenges that we have right now. Kyle holds a master's degree in environmental science from the State University of New York, College of Environmental Science and Forestry, and a bachelor's degree in environmental studies from Binghamton University. And Carl began his work in the environmental arena in 1998 as an Air and Energy Program Associate at Environmental Advocates of New York. And prior to Grace, Kyle served as Executive Director at Friends of the Bay in Oyster Bay, New York, and worked as a Senior Policy Analyst and Campaign Director at Riverkeeper. And of relevance to today's presentation, Kyle and his family live in an energy-efficient home, and he meets half of their electricity needs with a solar electric system. Please welcome Kyle Rabin.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you. Really good to be with you all this morning. I think the work that the League of Women Voters. Louder? Sorry. The mic doesn't work. Right. So good to be with you this morning, and I just want to congratulate you on all the great work that you're doing, and at the state level, at the local level. It's really good to see, and we need more of that across the state. So I work for Grace Communications Foundation. I figured I'll just tell you a little bit about Grace. They got their start in 1997, primarily focused on the environmental and public health issues associated with our current industrial food system. Today we work on food, water, and energy issues. And over the last several years, we've been consolidating several of our project websites under one roof. We recognize that we're working on these three key issues, and we just need to be more focused on how they relate to each other. It didn't make sense to have these separate websites all designed to increase public awareness about sustainability. It should all be under one roof, and that really speaks to a trend that I think is happening around the globe, that our food, water, and energy systems are deeply interconnected and dependent on each other. And it's important to be aware of those interconnections when you're forming policy, when businesses are developing their plans, and for individuals when they want to reduce their impact on the environment. So I just wanted to quickly mention that Grace is probably best known for its Matrix animation, which highlights the problems with our industrial food system. Over 30 million people have seen this animation worldwide, and it's been followed up by 2 other animations. It's an excellent resource for educating people about the downsides of our current industrial food system. We also have several other projects: the Sustainable Table, Eat Well Guide, and our Water Footprint Calculator, which helps you assess your direct and indirect water use, something I could speak more to later on. And just quickly wanted to just say that in terms of what Beth mentioned about the home my family and I live in, the solar electric system we had installed about 7 years ago, it saves us about $650 each year on electricity costs. It meets easily more than half of our electric demand, and it's been trouble-free. It's self-maintaining, and I can only say good things about it. It's been an amazing experience. And really, we're basically spending $650 a year on electricity. It's a small home, but it's just when you think about what some people pay, each year for electricity, it's really been a blessing to us. And we've also did some insulation work, which has knocked off 125 gallons of oil consumption each year. So that's probably a savings in the range of $300, $400 each year. So I could speak to the benefits, and what really drove us initially was to shrink our carbon footprint. And obviously there's an excellent economic benefit as well. And as was mentioned, with the way things are set up today, you don't have to front the cost in many cases for a solar electric system and other ways of improving your home's carbon footprint, reducing your home's carbon footprint. It's very economical to do so. So just getting back to Grace, I head up the water and energy programs, and for the water we basically focus on water conservation, hence the water footprint calculator, water quality issues, watershed protection. On the energy side, we focus on promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency, and also highlighting the downsides of our current energy system, conventional power plants, whether it's coal-fired or nuclear power. And it's really all about creating online resources that other organizations can use to educate groups or school classes. Getting back to the nexus issue, just a few key points I wanted to stress. It probably goes without saying that these three systems, food, water, energy, form the backbone of our society. Each are under tremendous strain from a number of factors, changing climate, economic growth, in some cases bad policy making, consumer choices. The three systems are just taking a big hit globally at the local level, and we need better policy, but we also need to be more informed as consumers. And there's a number of actions that we could take that can help ease the strain on the three systems, as well as the strain that exists between those three systems. When I'm talking about these three systems, I'm talking about both the production and the consumer side. And you probably all know this quite well with the extreme weather we've seen, whether it's Hurricane Sandy, the drought that this country has had, over the last year. These systems are under tremendous strain. Just to put all this into context, globally, just a few statistics globally, about a billion people worldwide have no access to clean drinking water. Over 2 billion are without access to safe sanitation facilities. Nearly 900 million people are undernourished. Over 1.4 billion people are without access to electricity worldwide, almost all of whom live in developing countries. And projections by the National Intelligence Council, they estimate that by 2030, demand for food, water, and energy will grow approximately 35, 40, and 50% respectively, owing to an increase in the global population and to consumption patterns of an expanding middle class. Shortages in water, food, and energy comprise one of four megatrends that the NIC said would cause radical economic and political changes between now and 2030. To get back to the nexus, that's the context, but basically what we are talking about when we talk about the food, water, and energy nexus is that energy is required to treat our wastewater and transport our drinking water. Water is required to generate electricity and produce transportation fuels. Energy and water are required to grow food, and an increasing portion of certain crops is being used for fuel, for energy instead of for food. And then that's on the availability side. On the quality side, we all know that our environmental quality, water quality are threatened by our industrial food system, by our energy system. The concerns that have been raised about hydraulic fracturing and its impact on various water resources, including drinking water, are well known. So when we talk about a change of mindset, we're taking a nexus approach to what we're doing as consumers and to policy making, what we do as businesses. We're trying to better understand how these three systems interrelate, and then using that information to create better policy and planning and manage these three systems in a much smarter fashion. To quickly get to the consumer side, there's a range of actions that you can take. A lot of them are going to sound familiar because you might be doing them to reduce your carbon footprint, to reduce your water footprint. One is obviously to go renewable, whether that's as a homeowner or if you live in a community, there's other opportunities to team up with neighbors to bring solar to your community if it's not ideal for your home. Also, that's in regards to solar electric. You also can install solar hot water systems on your home as a way to reduce your fuel use, whether it's natural gas or oil. We heard the Energy Star was mentioned earlier. There's a number of products that you can purchase if you're looking to buy a new washing machine or dryer or refrigerator. Be mindful that there's amazing products out there that can really help reduce your electric demand. And then on the, in terms of mass transit and bicycling, we could do a whole lot more, I think, to improve mass transit from a policy level, but also as a individual, you can rely on mass transit to work and riding a bicycle when feasible. And then if you're in the market for a new car, there's a number of vehicles out there that can help you reduce your fuel use. Some are now plug-ins where you could have your car plugged into your home to produce the power for the vehicle, and that could be powered by a renewable energy system on your home. All this I'm going over, I have more details on in a blog post up on our website. We have a blog called Ecocentric, and I go into far more detail with each of these, but I'm just kind of glossing through these real quick just to give you a thumbnail sketch of all the actions you can take that can help reduce the strain on these three key systems and also help to reduce the tensions between the systems. On the water side, just went over some of the energy options. On the water side, obviously saving water is another way to save energy, but there's a number of products that the EPA promotes through their Water Sense program that can help you reduce your water consumption at your home. But you also could there's direct water use, which is the water that you use in your home for showers, for washing dishes, washing clothing. But there's also the indirect water use. That's the water embedded in the food you eat, the energy we use. And to be more mindful of your how you're using water in an indirect fashion, we've created this water footprint calculator that has a number of tips that will enable you to see what actions you can take to reduce your water use on that indirect or virtual side. And then just in terms of food, I'll quickly just mention that food waste is probably one area that we could all do much better in terms of reducing household food waste. I think the average family or average household wastes approximately $2,000 worth of food each year, and the food waste issue is a perfect way of looking at those interconnections between the three systems. When you're wasting food, you're also wasting water, the water that was used to grow that food. You're wasting the energy that's embedded. And there's this amazing statistic by some research that's been done over the last few years that basically approximately 2.5% of the U.S. energy budget is thrown away annually as food waste. And then on the water side, 25% of all fresh water consumed annually in the U.S. is associated with discarded food, about as much as the volume of Lake Erie. The environmental group, Natural Resources Defense Council, has done a lot of great work on this food waste issue, and one of the things I have for you to take later is some tips that they produced, a fact sheet that gives you a quick overview of the issue, but some ways to reduce food waste in your home. And feel free to stop by later. I could give you a copy of that. Also, in terms of food options, we need to, on the production side, the technology exists, but we need to be using water in a much smarter fashion to grow our food. Whether it's eastern United States or the western United States, there's ways to grow our food in a much more sustainable manner. And again, all this gets back to reducing impact on the natural environment. If these three systems are out of balance, then they're going to be impacting the environment in an adverse fashion. And they're also going to be jeopardizing food, energy, and water security, and adversely impacting the climate, which then can, full cycle, impact the sustainability and the resiliency of our three key systems. So that's just a quick overview of the food, water, energy nexus. I couldn't get to everything, but we produced a paper that gives a better overview, more detailed analysis of what this means for us at the national level in terms of policies. And we want to follow up that paper with something that's more consumer-oriented to give people ideas of what they can do or what some things they may already be doing to reduce the strain on these three systems. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyle, very much, and Rick. This paper, Food, Water, and Energy, is you can download from GraceLink's website. The statistics are remarkable. Just one quick one. What can you mention about the pizza, because that's something that really can resonate for people? Do you have that statistic?
I don't have the numbers, but I could look at the copy you have there. So to help make this, because this is one thing we're trying to convey here is that this isn't an academic policy-oriented idea. This has real impact on all our lives, and so we try to use this pizza analogy. And part of this speaks to the water footprint of the ingredients that go into a pizza. But so the Water Footprint Network, which is a global organization with tremendous expertise on water footprinting, found that to make a single pizza requires 333 gallons of water, enough to fill almost 10 bathtubs. How much was it? 333 gallons of water.
We have doubters in the group.
Okay.
The cheese, the tomato.
Well, and I should. Yep. No problem. And this is a margarita pizza, so I should clarify. So one topped with tomato, mozzarella, and basil. So the estimate by the Water Footprint Network is that a single pizza requires 333 gallons of water, and that's enough to fill almost 10 bathtubs.
And so they're not even talking about an everyday pizza.
Right, exactly. I don't know what that would be, but just, we're using this. Yep. Right, exactly.
Is there meat on a margarita?
No, that's an excellent point, because when you look at your water footprint, a huge chunk of it is the food we eat, and a huge chunk of that is what's embedded in meat. So if you have a vegetarian diet, then you're going to have a much lower water footprint than someone who eats meat once a week or more than that. The largest footprint is really associated with beef production, because the water that's used to grow the grains that are then fed to cattle, for instance. So you're looking at the big picture, and I think that holistic or systems way of thinking is what we need to do more of. And there's clearly there's a trend in that direction. I mean, this has emerged. The food, water, energy nexus has emerged as a critical issue for government, for businesses, and it's starting to pick up interest among the general public.
Thanks. One thing I want to mention, we talk a lot about carbon footprint, but and apropos of discussing our food, it's very important for us to look, I think, more about the greenhouse gases as the umbrella, because methane gas is also contributing to our climate problems. And the methane gas comes out of the gas drilling life cycle, but also from the food that we send to landfills. So I'm hoping that maybe we can, I think it'd be good if we replace the concept of, in our minds, of carbon footprint when we think about all of our consumption with greenhouse gases. Well, before we go to question and answers, and I do want to introduce briefly Tim Woodcock and Jean Hammerman, I just want to tell you briefly about my experience trying to save money to see whether or not this really worked, because I've put together this concept that we can conserve, save, and donate. And over the past 6 weeks, I did a variety of different things, and I was mindful about my gas tank the most, because that's really, I think, a pretty big ticket item. I think filling my car is about $60. And so I was able to walk into town, and I did so as much as possible. I tried to think, well, I need to go there, but then I thought, well, do I really need to go there? And then people looked at me because I was talking to myself. But the idea is that, I tried to consolidate trips. So I would say, well, no, I don't really need to do that today. Maybe I can do it, on the way of dropping my son off from school or whatever it might be. And I'm sure we all do these things. But if you think about it, if you're using your car a little bit less, then in the big picture, you can save. So over 6 weeks, I was able to save 1 tank of gas, and that was, I estimated that as $56. And I also, after reading Kyle's report, felt a little bit less inhibited about going to the section of the supermarket where we have our bruised fruit. The amount of food that gets wasted, even before it even gets into our home, is staggering. And I don't have the statistic, but when you read this report, you will just not believe it. We need to have our tomatoes so perfect that a lot of these tomatoes get thrown away. And I think that's across the board. So I started buying, bananas that were a little bruised and what have you, grapefruits, etc. The quality of the food wasn't impacted at all, and I was able to save money. I think it was, and between the bread and that, I have the number, I think it's about $10 or $12. Instead of taking things to the dry cleaner, I took a couple of silk sweaters, this being one of them. It wasn't my first choice today because I don't like to wear black, but I decided seeing is believing. So instead of paying $6 to have this dry cleaned, I hand washed it, and that saved me on 2 sweaters about $10. I'm not a big meat eater, but when you look at the prices of meat, there's tremendous savings if you don't purchase meat. I did not buy juice for a month. That's about $4 a container if you think about it. I just drank water. I saved $12 there. And I turn off my power strips on my computer, and I saved $10. Now, I live in a cooperative apartment, and I cannot control the heat in my building, and we're trying to make some changes on that. And I think that if we're able to make our building more energy efficient, hopefully it will reduce our maintenance, or at least cause it not to increase. And I didn't use paper towels. I used cloth towels, and I'm throwing them in with the laundry. That saved me $5. And since I live in a building where I have to pay for my washer and dryer, I did a little bit more hand washing. That didn't save me so much. It was $2.70. But I think that the Energy Star point that Mark made, you're paying a little bit more for an appliance, but you're saving a lot on the energy that you're consuming. I haven't gotten to changing all my light bulbs yet, but I'm going to be working on that. So Nancy, if you'd come up here, I have a check that I want to give you from all the money that I saved. What did you say? I can't hear you here. So I have a check here I saved, and this wasn't including the coupons. The coupons, which I'm getting pretty good at, was a whole nother, area where you really can, as long as you're not throwing the food away at the end, right? The idea is just doing that mindfully, mindful consumption. But aside from the coupons, I saved $107.70. So I'm going to be contributing to the Homix Ice Rink Trust Fund a check for $100.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. This is our first donation, and I'm very excited. I really think it's a great idea. I think it's wonderful to take the whole year and look at all of our consumption, see if we can save and contribute it to something that's going to really reduce energy. As was mentioned earlier, the ice rink is the largest energy user in the town. It has to be renovated because it's falling apart, and so we have the opportunity to do it in the most sustainable way. We're looking at systems that will not only reduce the energy it uses to begin with, but take the energy, the heat that's created by making ice and using it in other parts of the building so that it's heating areas of the building that normally would use heat, but it's going to be taking it from the result product of making ice. So we have a lot of exciting initiatives going on in the town all the time as well. I want to thank Beth and Mark, and Michelle is here as well from our Sustainability Collaborative. But we're looking at reducing the energy usage in the town center as well, which is a very old building, very difficult to work with, but we're looking to reduce our energy use in the town in order to save money and reduce our carbon footprint. Thank you.
I have a lot of faith that this can happen, and almost every day I'm getting a phone call from somebody different. I just got a phone call from Save the Sound. We're going to have a program on the sound. I love the Long Island Sound. I'm committed to the water quality here. And we need to think about, in terms of the value of our community, what that means and how we conserve that. Every day, there's somebody else who's finding out about what we're doing. How can I become involved? The Sheldrake wants to become more involved. There are so many great efforts going on in this community, and it's really just a matter, I think, of sitting down and talking to one another. In some ways, the internet is great because it connects us across distances, but in some ways it's separated us, which is why I'm so grateful that everybody took the time, to come out here this morning. Before we get to questions and answers, I do want to introduce Jean Hammerman from Neighbor Green, who's going to talk a little bit about what we should do in looking on our electricity bills, and also take a couple of minutes if there's something else you wanted to mention. Do you want to come up here? Yeah? Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Greetings from the river towns. I serve on the Hastings-on-Hudson Conservation Commission and on a municipal collaboration called the Southern Westchester Energy Action Consortium, which works with Southern Westchester communities to try to collaborate with our municipalities to see what we can do together. And obviously, education is a big part of what we do. Beth had suggested some of you bring your energy bills because I'm a certified energy auditor and have done hundreds of audits and remediations in homes throughout Westchester, and 9 out of 10 people that I visit don't know how much they spend on electricity and fuel costs. And really understanding that is a first step in awareness to thinking about what measures they can take. And I think Beth has given excellent examples of what you can do that don't have any investment or money to be able to do it. I'm also a homeowner, like many of you, and I have just gone through the process of applying for the NYSERDA loan and actually renovating and insulating my entire house, starting at the attic, the slopes, the knee walls, the exterior walls, the basement, everything. And I can say that my home is now maintaining its temperature at a constant state. And so it's not calling for heat as often, and that's where the savings come in. And you're more comfortable, and the home is quieter, and it's just a healthier home. So homes, many of our homes, are too drafty. So really, we're all part of the 99%. That is, we all have homes that could benefit from some measures, whether you do it incrementally or you do it all at once. But I really encourage you to really look at your energy bills. I have some material from the government, from Energy Star, if you want to take information about air sealing information. I have some here, as well as 100 ways that you can help save energy. So I encourage you all to start taking those steps and really just learn from each other. That's really the best way to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And then lastly, before we get to questions, I want to introduce Tim Woodcock, who I've met through my work on hydraulic fracturing. And like me, Tim has been both on the side of really trying to look at how we might be able to safely or not extract the gas, and also try to move us forward in the renewable energy sphere. And recently, Tim joined Solar City. So I wanted you to meet him, and maybe you can talk a little bit about what you do there.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Excuse me. So over the past 2 or 3 years, I've had an opportunity to work with Beth and with Susan. It's been really a pleasure. New York is an incredible place, and the movement, the mobilization, the ability of folks to get behind something and make a real change is unparalleled. I'm really impressed with everybody here. So when it comes to renewables, there's a couple of concepts I'd just like to relate. The first one is, do you guys have a landline? I'm sure many folks still have a landline, but you might have noticed that some folks carry phones in their pockets nowadays, cell phones, right? So what this is describing to me is the technological revolution where folks are decentralizing their communications capabilities, right? They're no longer, paying their phone bill to some power line or communications lines that are bringing their communications ability to their home, and only there. So now this is what the decentralization and democratization of renewable energy is really coming about to be. We can put a solar panel on your house. That way you can actually have control over it. It's on your house. It's something that is remote to where you are using it. It is being generated there on the site. So that's why I was really taking with Solar City. That, and also the fact that if you guys kilowatts, gigawatts, and then there's terawatts, which is a much higher level, right? So the world, human society, we consume 16 terawatts every day. Okay, 16. The sun, it hits the surface of the earth with, do you guys want to make a guess? What do you guess? How much does the sun hit the surface of the earth with? How many terawatts? 5,000. Good. Okay, good guess. It's a little higher. It's 85,000. 85,000 terawatts every day that the surface of the earth is hit with sunlight that can be used and made into usable energy for the human society that we are a part of. But instead, there's some folks, you know, some of them are from Texas, some of them are from Moscow. It doesn't matter where they're from, but they're telling you that you need to drill down into the earth to recover this essence that they can control and then sell to you, which is untrue. It is not based in any science. It is not true. 45,000 terawatts of wind every day. We have 18,000 terawatts of geothermal every day. Energy is meant to be democratized. Our natural resources can give it to us renewably, and all we have to do is empower it, and it will happen. So thank you guys, and it's a pleasure to be here.
So I've asked, yeah. Okay.
I just want to say, a lot of people think solar's too expensive. There are new programs, no money down, you can lease the equipment, penalty more efficient, and we can pre-qualify your home just by looking at Google Earth. All you have to do is give someone, I can take it for you, an address, and we can say whether you're eligible or you're not, and then you can begin to have the conversations.
Are there any? Can we have any questions from the audience? Yes, Judy.
About the question about solar panels and also what else we can do as a community to reduce our consumption, which is, you can only do so much as an individual. There's more you can do if you do it as a community. One is that we keep looking into the solar panels, and people in Germany, where the homes are close together and they're trees and it's cold, they can have solar panels. Our homes don't qualify for solar panels. We keep asking, and they say, no, your slope is wrong and this is wrong.
So
we don't understand that.
So
we're willing to do it, and we're told, no, we don't qualify. And so I wonder if the characteristics are the criteria are too stringent. Because that's the one thing that maybe as a town or as a community we can try to put a little pressure on, a little bit more flexibility.
So the question is about whether or not the characteristics that we're associating with getting solar. Some people are told that they've got trees on their house or are not able to do it. But in Germany, where actually the way the government supplies, so it's a little bit different. But why is it that they can do it elsewhere and not here? Did you want to say something? Or do you want to?
Just so you know that there's great, the NYSERDA program subsidizes or incentivizes people to do solar. They have certain requirements. So if you really want to get the rebates, which equal about 70% of the cost of your system through federal and state rebates, you need to have a certain amount of orientation and a certain amount of area that's not shaded. So it's really to get you the rebate that covers the majority of the cost of the system, and those are the requirements. But you can do land mounts if you have extra land, or they're making solar farms, but not in your backyard, not here in Mamaroneck, but not here in your area. But the requirements are really driven by the state incentives.
A few quick things on solar. One, you've heard it mentioned several times. We always think of solar as electric energy production. It also can be used for hot water, and the hot water takes less sun to produce. I've been looking more and more, and I think we ought to think about it as we just came through Sandy, as using solar as backup energy for instead of gas-powered generators. And I think that's another way of looking for solar. I do think there is something that can be done as a community to think about how to facilitate and encourage and make solar possible. I also recently went to Turkey. Every building has solar hot water on it. Every building, no matter how poor that building is. And when I spoke to the building commissioner in New York City, I said, maybe we're regulating too much about what we require from solar. And for example, the amount of space you have to leave for the fire department in New York City. I don't know what the story is here. And his answer, and this is really worth thinking about as a society, was, well, that's why people like to live here. We're safer. So somewhere between being safer and encouraging, we need to find a new balance, I think.
Yes, Kathy. Here.
Hi, I'm Catherine Parker. I'm on the Rye City Council, and Pertaining to roofs, one of the initiatives that our sustainability committee has just brought to our council is cool roofs. So it's not creating electricity, but it's reducing electricity. And cool roofs, it's a very simple process where our public buildings, right now our schools and a lot of our municipal buildings have flat roofs, and so it's a process of just simply using particular paint, light colored paint. It reflects the sun, so in the summertime it keeps your buildings cooler, and in the wintertime it allows for less energy consumption. So that's one thing that we're doing in the city of Rye that maybe, I don't know if Mamaroneck or Larchmont has looked at that, but that's our next step, yeah. And since I'm standing, I also wanted to let you know that in Rye tonight, we are doing a green screen film at Rye Country Day School called No Impact Man. And it's a great documentary if any of you are unfamiliar with it. It's about a family, they live in Manhattan, and they decide to basically try to reduce their carbon footprint as much as possible. They go on a plan that I don't think I could do, but it has a very, it has some humorous moments, but it's really maybe also would inspire some of us to try to do a little bit more than what I think all of us are really already trying to do. And that's at 7 o'clock at Rye Country Day School. It's no charge, and they have the documentary filmmaker, his name I forget right now, but he will be at the screening tonight.
I'm just going to remember just to say this is that on the weekend of March, I think it's 8th, 9th, or 10th, or 9th, 10th, 11th, we're going to be showing Bagot at 9th, 10th, 11th. I was close, okay, at the various, in the village of Larchmont, the village of Mamaroneck, and the town of Mamaroneck to complement the great work we're doing to shift away from plastic bags. And also the day before we have our community-wide yard sale at the town of Mamaroneck Park at Memorial Park, we're going to be doing a community-wide cleanup at Harbor Island, and that's on April 20th. Did you want to say something, MJ?
Hi, my name is MJ Wilson, and there's several things, and then finally a question. But okay, so first of all, I just want to let you know that there's going to be an EPA conference in New York City next week on food waste reduction. Their focus is on commercial, but I believe enrollment is still open. I will send Beth the link for it. If anybody is more urgent about, wants to find out more immediately, see me afterwards. Also, there is a state electronics challenge webinar on February 12th about how to reduce electrical use and e-waste, and I'll send Beth that URL as well if you want to get more information on that. And also, just to let you know, for food, it is possible to do things in a different way. I'm the Zero Waste Co-Coordinator for the Hudson River Clearwater Festival, and for the past 2 years we have diverted 5 tons of biodegradable material from the waste stream, which in Westchester is the burner up in Peekskill. We sent 5 tons to commercial composting facilities to make soil amendment. 5, so it's 10 tons over 2 years that instead of trashing it, we've composted it. So it is doable. And then also, I'll send Beth, there's a composting conference in Rhode Island, which is only about 2.5 hours away from here. And I will send Beth that URL. And then also, I do need to make a plug that I am the Master Composter Recycler Program Director for Sheldrake, newly minted. The baton has been passed, so if anybody is interested in finding out more about how Westchester processes their stuff, where stuff goes when you throw it away, look to Sheldrake for the program. We're hoping to offer it again in the spring. Now, the question I have is, I was just at the home fair at Pace. I talked to somebody about solar. He Googled me, looked it up, and said, oh, you have to get rid of that tree. I said, well, the tree provides environmental benefits. It cools and water, blah, blah, blah. And he says, oh, no, it's not worth it. So if anybody has information on how you can really evaluate the ecosystem services of that tree versus the benefit of the solar, I would be interested in knowing that, because to me it really is about looking at the whole system and looking at it comprehensively and being as smart as possible with what we've got. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a really important question, and sometimes the tree is better than the solar panel, no question. However, a lot of times, if you're looking at it holistically, the solar panel, over the course of the 20-year deal, which is usually what we sign folks up for, all right, you're going to save between $500 and $15,000 a year, or $1,500 a year, depending on the size of the system, versus the utility price, and it's going to go up as the utility price goes up. You save more. So, but the tree, if you cut down the tree and maximize your or optimize your ability to intake electricity from your roof, over the course of 20 years, if it's a small system, it will be the equivalent of stopping the release of carbon dioxide, the same amount of which 62 trees would have taken in. So that release of carbon and intake of trees, intake of carbon by trees is important. If it's a big system, it's 150 trees and their carbon intake over the course of 20 years. It's hard to describe. One tree is good, but 150 trees is better. It is important to remember, if your locality is more important to you, that is awesome, and I get it, and that's very important. But solar in Westchester is trying. It's hard, and it's because of the trees. But it's okay. There's other ways to make energy too, and we're going to work at them holistically. We're not just focused on the solar. You want to? There you go. Yeah, just get all the trees on the north side of the house.
Carol, did you want to say? Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, there is.
Elizabeth, did you?
I just want to say, don't the trees.
Right, trees cool the house, so there's the. So there's that.
Trees cool the house, but if you have panels, then and if you insulate the house properly, and if you use the windows so that are facing south or west or east, that are bringing in sunlight, so passive solar.
But trees also make oxygen, and they keep the soil. I mean, there's so many. It's a very complicated. The other thing that seems to have happened, unfortunately, is that I think in some respects we become tree phobic because the trees are falling on the power lines, and people have been harmed, and so it becomes a complicated situation. But maybe it's a matter of when we replant our trees, putting them in a place more mindfully. Yeah, Elaine. The type of tree.
Tall canopy trees, which have been ubiquitous in this
Right,
area,
right.
are now being replanted.
Right.
They're being replaced with
Right.
trees. So we get many benefits.
Are we going to get the labradoodle of trees now? Is that what we're going to? Marlene?
I just thought that the league really has a big place statewide, because I think Con Edison has.
That's a great.
Putting a generator in the backyard.
Right.
Right.
I-
So Con Edison, he offered Larchmont as a model community if they'd like to try to underground our wires and steal
Right.
it. But
Okay.
his advice, but they have, somebody's got to get the Con Edison.
Right. Okay. Well, then we've got that on the list. Yes.
Part
Al,
of their
yeah.
rate increase, they have put in that they are going to vary
Yeah,
some
but
margin,
they haven't done it.
they haven't said where, so it's pending now. Maybe there's some time to go fight for it.
So Rick said that part of what Con Ed has pledged to do is put in underground wires that hasn't happened yet. Yes, Ellen?
I actually wanted to follow up on the order set of discussions that we've been having. First, my name is Ellen Leininger. I'm an environmental health educator and the educational outreach coordinator for grassroots environmental education. I'm really honored to be here and see so many familiar.
Can you just repeat it because we're also taking this?
Okay, my name is Ellen Weininger. I'm an environmental health educator and the educational outreach coordinator for Grassroots Environmental Education, a nonprofit based on Long Island with a Westchester office. I wanted to first say how honored I am to be here among many familiar faces and many new faces, and to really thank Beth for all of her incredible work, and it's just been such an honor and privilege to work with her on so many different things, and then to be here this morning and participate. I loved what Kyle said earlier about the interconnectedness of what we do and bringing those thoughts together, and in that vein, I just wanted to add a few thoughts and pose a question as a result of those thoughts, and that is when we're thinking about energy, we are thinking about all these different things about energy efficiency, about solar, geothermal, and wind power, and all the small and large things that we can do. But I want to pose some of the other things that really are interconnected. And when we start to think about those fossil fuels, petrochemically based products that we're using that are really part of this energy discussion. And very often, or most of the time, it's just left out of the discussion, and it's absolutely critical. So begin to look at the things that you're doing, because you do have the opportunity to make a huge difference by the very choices you make for your own home. You're a decision maker. You may not be a municipal official, you may not be a school administrator that makes these procurement choices, but you are the head of procurement in your own home, and you can buy products or make use of practices that will have an enormous impact on energy consumption. Some basic examples are, think of petrochemicals that are in plastics. Think of petrochemicals that are in many of the home care products and personal care products that you're using. And then think also about, the fact that something like lawn care, which many people are giving great thought to, a conventional program in lawn care actually uses an enormous amount of petrochemicals. The pesticides are petrochemically based, the synthetic fertilizers are petrochemically based. So by using natural lawn care practices, which are mostly about sustainable practices, cultural practices, simple changes like water use and overseeding and leaf mulching, thank you, MJ, and other simple things that are basic and cost effective. So these are simple things that you can do, and if you'd like more information, you can check our website at grassrootsinfo.org. But and I'm also happy to provide additional information and more details. The question that I have is really changing the culture and making this something that everyone wants to be participating in. That we have a group here with great synergy, but what about many of our neighbors? What is the psychology around making this really the most important thing that we do, the lens with which we make decisions? How are we going to do that? And as a community, whether it's in Larchmont or Mamaroneck, or whether it's up in northern Westchester or anywhere else, how do we come together and make a decision as residents here in Westchester County to be on a conservation diet where we really do have the power and the capacity to make change and commit to really making change, and so that everyone, every resident on our blocks, every resident in our community is making a difference, so that we're looking at a real reduction in our energy consumption, and so that it's maybe 25%, and it's not just doing the energy audit, it's doing all these things and really having an impact. So I pose that question about creating that culture and taking that step and saying, here's our goal and here's what we're going to do. And I'd love to hear some thoughts and feedback about that, because we have elected officials, we have a lot of great professionals here. Thank you.
Well, I know that we've all got a break in a minute, and I'll give our speakers a chance to say something. But the point of this 2013 community-wide Conservation Civics Initiative was exactly what you're proposing. I've written a letter to our clergy, every member of the clergy in our community, asking them the weekend before Earth Day if they would be willing to deliver a sermon on mindful consumption and whether or not we have a moral obligation. I've been in the schools. We've got the high school and the middle school. I'm hoping we're going to get our younger children involved at Halloween to make their costumes out of recycled material. I'm very open to ideas because I think that people in this community have wonderful ideas, and I'm thinking of us as maybe the hub of the wheel. We've got, you've got email to reach me. We've got great media here. We've got a fantastic local government. I mean, this is the prime time to do it because the people who are in our local government are like-minded. So nothing could be better right now. And this, I think, is a perfect location to begin and become a model for other communities. So, the door is wide open for communicating, and I think that as we move through the year, what seems a little bit difficult initially really doesn't become so difficult once we do it a few times. The first time you give up that tank of gas, it's a little strange, but over time, now it's actually, I can fit into a pair of jeans that I couldn't wear a while ago. So there are some benefits to all of this. Did you want to say anything before, we leave? Yeah, quickly
address that. And I also just want to quickly say thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. And Beth, you're a star, so knowledgeable, doing so many amazing things. To your point, I think it's really about using all lines of communication to reach people, and that includes going to meetings, sharing it with friends, small groups, large groups, but share what is working for you to reduce your impact. Give people a handful of actions that they can do to reduce, whether it's their water footprint or your carbon footprint. You use online resources and such, but that's why I just wanted to quickly mention.
I'll just say thank you for also, one thing that I really would like to suggest, the Cool Roofs idea. We run the Mayor's Cool Roofs program in New York. We use young people and volunteers. It's a way of getting people out and feeling and getting a spirit going. I think if you could get as much visible stuff as possible. We're running composting where we're taking product and using it on neighborhood farms, community gardens. I mean, it's ways to think about it, bringing the community together. But you guys are wonderful. You gals are wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The visible piece I just want to mention is one of the ideas I had, to adopt something from a local, and maybe I mentioned this at a prior meeting, where the thermometer goes up when we raise money. I want to have something visible where when we raise money, the thermometer goes down, right? And so I think that we can certainly do that. I wanted to just mention, I don't know how many of you are birders, but the hummingbird is the most efficient bird and possibly the most efficient creature on our planet. And so in the spirit of that, I wanted to present this hummingbird feeder to each of our speakers. And thank you all very much for coming. And stay tuned and stay in touch.